You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look me better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Deku Meets Frozen. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of aspiring parasite on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. It was at the end of the school day that he found her, sitting at her desk. She was in the far corner, eyes glued to her planner as she blocked out her schedule. She wore the school uniform, but also a pair of simple white gloves. Her platinum blonde hair was wrapped around her head in a braid to keep it out of her face as she worked, using tiny, pretty writing to work in details. The perfect student through and through, she made sure to block out her days to cover her studying and extracurricular activities. Gotta keep up those grades if she was going to SWCH schools later. Ah, excuse me, he spoke as he neared, getting her attention. Are you Brad Elsa? She blinked at him, then promptly dropped her pencil onto her planner as her bluebell eyes went wide. He was an average height boy, with bright eyes and a mop of curly green hair. With a splotch of freckles and polite smile, he seemed friendly enough, but he wasn't in her class. And Elsa's heart began to hammer fearfully as she suspected why he was there. Why yes, she confessed hesitantly. Ah, I'm Midoriya Izuku, from Class 1A. I know who you are, she wanted to say, but didn't. He was that boy with the crazy strong quirk at the sports festival 2 weeks ago. But if he was introducing himself like this, he must not have remembered her. Despite herself she began to calm, realizing that maybe she was jumping the gun with her assumptions. Nice to meet you, she said, instead of her real question of, what are you doing here? I hope I'm not bothering you. He continued quickly with an embarrassed smile. I saw your matches at the sports festival and wanted to ask about your quirk. Oh. She offered a polite smile, though couldn't mask her anxiety. Shoot, he did remember her. And any questions about her quirk were dangerous ones. Well, it's pretty simple, she answered with a tiny shrug. I make ice. There's not really much to it. Especially since Todoroki Shoto could do the same thing. In fact, when considering the fact that he could also make fire, it made her single-element quirk sort of pale in comparison. She wasn't all that special here, something a part of her reveled in. Well, yeah, that's what I thought too at first, but then I realized the ice wasn't coming from you, so that couldn't be it. Not coming from me? She frowned in confusion a moment, tilting her head. What do you mean? Well, Todoroki's quirk comes from him. Whether it's fire or ice, he releases it from his body. That's how quirks work, he clarified, like a teacher giving a lecture. He switched his gaze to the ceiling and turned thoughtful. But yours doesn't work like that at all. It's like you shoot magic from your hands and just make ice appear, like on the field, or even mid-air. I was so shocked I couldn't figure it out at first. It shouldn't have even been possible to have it separate from you on formation. Ah. She blinked as she realized what he was saying. Quirks were biological traits, which meant that whatever they did or made had to come from their bodies in the first place. The fact that there could be space between her and her ice was what he had found strange. You know a lot about quirks, don't you? Yeah, I studied them for a while, he confessed, slightly embarrassed. But dash. He continued quickly back on track and eager to share, then I realized it would be possible if you weren't actually creating ice, but building it. He grinned triumphantly. You're freezing the moisture in the air around you and constructing ice from that, aren't you? Her heart nearly stopped. He had figured that out just from watching her. This boy was smart, and she couldn't figure out a way to lie to him. Maybe if she kept it brief he would be satisfied and leave it at that. Well. In a manner of speaking, yes, she confessed with a small shrug. She looked away from him, not able to meet his eyes. I can make tiny particles of ice. Most of the time they just melt before it gets too cold. I knew it. His eyes flashed in excitement. I realized it after the first match. The longer it went, the colder the air got. His fists were gripped tight, explanation pouring out of him the more he gained momentum. It finally clicked when I saw snowflakes starting to form around you without you doing anything. You had to be freezing the air around you to accomplish that. Her stomach clenched at the reveal of information. No one had mentioned that to her when talking about the match after. They just assumed the air was getting colder because of her ice. Maybe no one had noticed, or they didn't care. But this boy had been watching, and he'd been analyzing her from the moment she released her quirk. It wasn't snow, she said quickly. It was frost. I can't make snow. She lied. He's going to figure it out, she feared, whole body on edge as she realized this. I have to stop him and never talk to him again. Well, maybe not on purpose, but you could if there was already rain clouds in your range of field. Unfortunately he was too excited to notice, slamming his hands on the desk and beaming in realization, his eyes practically glittering in exuberance. That must have been what happened at Josei. It was already going to rain, and you just had to freeze the moisture. You're the one that froze over Josei Academy, aren't you? Her stomach plummeted. Her entire body turned to ice. Everything zeroed in on his excited face, weeks of terror and panic rushing back to the surface. Look at her, the ice princess. I can't believe she froze over the whole school. I'm going to fail my entrance exams because of her. No dash, she was glancing behind him, trying to see if anyone had heard him. But the few groups of students still behind were happily chatting amongst themselves and not paying them any heed. They can't know, they can't dash. I bet she loved the attention. All the reporters, the news outlets dash. They had to bring in so many pro heroes because of her dash. Some students had to go to the hospital. That would explain everything. I just couldn't get it before, you know. He elaborated, hands gesticulating as he thought back. It would be one thing if it was just the school frozen over, but there was also a snowstorm. Even if you could change the weather, it wasn't like you could have two quirks, but if the school was already frozen, but your quirk kept growing to reach the clouds, then dash. What a villain. You're wrong. The slam echoed after her scream, and Izuku jumped out of his ramblings. The students did notice that, turning about to face the pair. Elsa was on her feet, panicked eyes blazing at him and leaning over her desk, hands on her notebooks where she'd slammed them. That's not me. She argued. You have my quirk completely wrong. Oh. He stammered, too shocked to say anything else for a moment before he relented. Sorry, he offered, worried at the sudden change. It just made the most sense to me, so I thought dash. Well, you're wrong. She snapped. It all came pouring out of her desperate attempts to deflect and deny everything. That's very rude to assume that about someone, you know. How could you think I was some kind of villain? I didn't. He squawked, hands up in alarm as he stepped back. I just thought you might be a student, and dash. Well, don't. Maybe you should ask someone first before figuring that out on your own. Oh, yeah, I guess so, he conceded. One hand went to the back of his neck, face down in shame. Someone like that would have used more power at the sports festival, right? Sorry, I got carried away. Seeming to believe her, and letting the subject drop, Elsa snatched her notebooks and her bag, in too much of a hurry to stuff them in. She practically raced out the door, dodging glances and flying out of the room. If it had just been that, Izuku would have let it drop, and let this be just an embarrassing episode to try to forget later. But as he looked after her, he noticed something on the ground, tiny patches of ice leading out the door where she had fled. Did she mean to do that? He wondered as he followed the icy footsteps out the door. Or, can she not control her quirk? That single thought suddenly connected everything into place. When Izuku returned home, he usually went right to studying to get his homework out of the way. But this time when he sat at his desk, he took out his phone and started searching online articles. Back when he'd first heard about this, it had been in the middle of the event, so the details had been scarce. And then everything finally concluded. Well, he'd been way too busy training with All Might to look everything up and research it like he would have liked. And, well, with everything going on he had frankly forgotten about it. But now that he was free, he could finally look up all the details and see for himself what happened. Maybe he should have done this before asking her. 3 injured and 10 hospitalized at girls' boarding school. He gaped, focus turning to horror. Hospitalized? What happened? He scrolled through the articles, filtering through several to try to get a clearer picture of the chain of events. Each news source had interviewed different parents and got different stories. It wasn't until he managed to get to a couple with the students saying in their own words on what happened that he was finally able to pull everything together and get the full history. One night a couple students had been up late cramming for entrance exams. They noticed it had gotten colder, but since the office was closed at this hour there was no one to complain to. They tried. They bundled up and went to bed, thinking the AC had simply been turned up full blast. The next morning however, their temperatures had reached sub-zero, and everyone realized that the east dormitories had literally frozen over from the outside. Thick sheets of ice had wrapped around the outside of the building, and down the second-story hall, literally trapping the girls in their rooms. The school turned up the heaters to attempt to melt the ice and keep the students warm as they called the police, asking for battering rams. The officers managed to get through the ice, but the more time passed, the thicker the ice grew and the faster it spread, making it harder to get the girls deeper inside. Here, Izuku had to think about it as he wondered what was happening. If she knew help was coming, why would she thicken the ice? Unless she just couldn't control it. But then he realized that the heater must have been melting and evaporating the ice, putting more moisture in the air and conducting her quirk more quickly. It had ironically hindered the rescue. The city had been due for rain, meaning the sky was overcast and blocking out the sun. It kept the ice from melting and helped rapidly cool down the surrounding area. The temperature several blocks around the school had dropped to freezing as well. Instead of raindrops the people were treated to snowflakes. Seeing the new scope of what they were facing, the people panicked and called for the pro-heroes, both to help rescue the students still trapped inside, and to fight whatever was causing this. Several had arrived, helping police break through the ice. Girls had to be rushed to the hospital for hypothermia, and several suffered frostbite. The casualties were much less than they could have been, the heaters in their rooms helping to keep the worst of the damage at bay. Endeavor and Eraser had eventually arrived, finally melting the ice from the school. According to the articles, they took care of the student that had been causing all of this, though didn't mention how. Though Izuku could make a pretty good guess what happened. The school must have realized that Brat wasn't doing this on purpose and just lost control. Mr. Eraserhead, must have been called in to stop her quirk and calm her down. I'm glad they didn't fight her. But still, having to deal with the aftermath of all that. Several articles had comments from parents complaining about the whole incident, especially those of students who had been in the hospital, and lost fingers or toes. They claimed they were going to attempt to press charges, and wanted apologies from the school and all that. If they knew about the student's quirk, they argued, then why weren't they better prepared? Why didn't they have a better system in place to deal with it? Some of the other comments made Izuku's BLD run cold. I'm shocked they even let that girl attend. I'm not sure someone like that should even be allowed near other students. I hope something is done about her. It was no wonder Brat had freaked out when he'd realized the truth. Having something like this in your past, especially when so many people were hurt and hated you for it, could absolutely kill you inside. And this did answer the other question he'd had. Though the quirk mechanics had made sense, the scale didn't. At the sports festival, she had made headway as being the only person in the business course who had an impressive quirk and was trying. He hadn't paid much attention to her during the obstacle course while he'd been racing, obviously, but she had finished in the top 42. And in the cavalry battle, she had been on Shinsu's team, making it into the tournament. Wait. Shinsu's team. Now that he thought about it, Ojiro and Neru had withdrawn because they had been under his control. But if she was on his team, it was possible she was too, yet she hadn't withdrawn. Could that be part of why she was so shaky? She was an ice user, constantly being compared to Todoroki's power. But he was trained by Endeavor, the number 2 hero. Wait. Todoroki. Endeavor. Had Endeavor's presence at the matches reminded her of that time in Josei? Was that why she had withdrawn? Looking back on it now, Izuku could understand perfectly. She had been roped under Shinsu's control, and though she hadn't withdrawn at first, she had still been so shaken from the experience she hadn't been able to think straight. And for someone who already feared her powers going out of control, to see the hero who'd had to rescue her. He clenched his teeth, gripping his phone as righteous anger filled him. It wasn't fair. She should have been transferred into the hero course after that. Not just for her quirk, but for fighting as well as she did, even with the stress she was under. He nodded to himself, making his decision. He'd fix this tomorrow, and get her into the hero course, where she belonged. She already declined. Izuku gaped at his teacher, too shocked for words. Ha! They offered her the transfer, but she refused, saying that she changed her mind. She'll be taking new entrance exams next springs, and SWCH schools. SSWCH schools. He gawked in horror. But she belongs here. She should be in the hero course. She failed the entrance exams and withdrew from the match. She's exactly where she wants to be. No, she isn't. She wants to be a hero, you know better than anyone else why she's too scared to enter. And that is precisely why I'm not forcing her, he said sharply, eyes narrowing down at the boy. If she feels she can't control her quirk, then she's too much of a liability to risk letting in. Liability, he spat the word out like venom. She's not a liability, she's a human being. Be that as it may, she's already made her decision. His teacher responded coolly. There's no changing that. Izuku whirled on his heel, marching off to head straight for the business course, not caring about the confused stares of his classmates, or that it would make him late for his training. He was going to get to the bottom of this, and get her into the hero course, no matter what. At the UA entrance exam, Elsa had failed at entering the hero course. But it hadn't been for lack of trying. She had trained relentlessly, using every free moment to practice her quirk. She'd need to impress them, so she tried to make massive structures as quickly as possible, pillars for attack and thick walls for defense. She practiced close-range and long-range attacks, wanting to cover all her bases and show she could be versatile. She even took creative suggestions from her sister, trying to expand her arsenal and possible strategies. Who also would suggest silly things to try to cheer up Elsa when she noticed her getting too stressed or nervous. The only thing she didn't practice was making snow. She felt that would be too much of a giveaway to her past, and wanted to avoid that if at all possible. The day finally arrived, and Elsa was nervous, but confident. I can do this, she told herself, hands squeezing inside her gloves. I know I'm strong. I belong here. I can do this. But of course, she couldn't be too strong and let anything leak now, could she? She took a deep breath. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. As the teacher went over the exam and requirements, Elsa felt the tension inside her release. When they had said mock battle, she assumed she'd be fighting against another hopeful student, or maybe a teacher pretending to be a villain. She had been practicing moves that immobilized or hindered people, but obviously nothing deadly. But if she was going against robots, then she could go all out. No need to hold back. She was assigned to Battle Center B, the same as the boy that had been called out in the lecture hall, and the boy that had called him out. But though the others were celebrating one less rival, all Elsa could see was how many other students would be in here with her. She knew a fight was a literal requirement, but seeing all the cocky, eager, or nervous faces here just cemented in the reality. She could very easily accidentally spear someone with her quirk. Even if the announcer hadn't mentioned that was off limits, Elsa would have been highly careful not to literally hurt anyone. But if she lost control and trapped everyone in the center, then... She shook her head of those thoughts, eyes turning to the gate. Don't think like that. You're not upset right now, and it's not going out of control. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Start. The race was on. She let the crowd go a little ahead, keeping distance between them. Elsa knew she would be competing against people, but she hadn't realized they'd be right next to her. She had taken her gloves off for battle, and all she could think about was trying not to touch anybody. Actually seeing the robots in action was another thing, something primal in her seizing up at the sight of them. She had never fought a student, let alone a villain, so having that killing intent facing her was jarring. But the other students were faster, and she watched the robots being torn to pieces. The students were eager and seemingly unaffected by the sight of them. And because Elsa had let them go on ahead, they could reach them first. Something about seeing them in action lighted something in her, and her determination returned. They may be scary, but she was stronger, she could take them out easily. Unfortunately, though Elsa could do long-ranged attacks, she couldn't risk accidentally hitting a student, and every time she was about to fire, another student seemed to pop up out of nowhere right in front of her. All her power was effective if she let it loose, but now she was prevented from being able to attack properly. I have to go on ahead. She realized. Try to get away from the others so I can move freely. So she ran down the street, sprinting as fast as she could go to try to get past the crowd. She was under a time limit, and the robots were dropping like flies. If she didn't hurry she wouldn't be able to get enough points. As the teachers watched, this was being counted against her. In battle, every split second counts. If you cannot attack first you run the risk of injuring yourself and putting others in danger. There's no room for hesitation in battle. Of course, none of the teachers recognized her or knew her quirk, so didn't know why she was hesitating so much. But Aizawa Shota had been watching the exam from the back, and he recognized her the moment she ran on screen. His mouth thinned and his eyes grew harsh. All Elsa could do was run, praying with every fiber of her being that she'd still be able to get enough points to pass. With most of the students behind her, at the first sign of a robot, Elsa finally let her power fly. It was no contest, the robot immobilized instantly. 1 point. Another soon after. 3 points. And one more. 5. She would have to catch up, she knew that, but... She was so exhausted. She was already panting, struggling as she tried to jog a little more to find more robots. I didn't know I'd have to do so much running. She wasn't bad in PE. Her grades were just in a good range, giving it an honest effort, but never focusing on that in her studies. After all, it hadn't been her focus. And when thinking of being a hero and battling, she had been focusing on trying to control her quirk. She hadn't bothered to train her body and stamina. No, she internally cursed when she had to support herself on her knees to catch her breath. I'm going to fall behind. I'm not going to dash. There was a rumble on the ground, a shake that startled her out of her thoughts. As she looked around she saw the looming shadow, and looked up in horror. The 0-point enemy had arrived. The battle stopped, every single hopeful student gaping in terror at the monstrosity before them. The thing was so enormous, it had grabbed the corner of the multi-story building in front of it, demolishing the top half and darkening the sky with debris and smoke. Its mechanical lens honed in on the crowd below, targeting systems booting up. Everyone watching took one look at it, and made the smart decision, turning tail and running. But Elsa remained rooted on the spot, her heart stopping for an entirely different reason as a new feeling hit her. Exhaustion forgotten, she took off, going against the crowd and barreling toward the behemoth. Oh ho, how interesting. The principal marveled. A change of attitude. Perhaps she's forgotten its 0 points and is desperate to pass. No, Aizawa mused, eyes watching her as she ran. She's just doing the one thing she knows she can. I can beat it. She concluded mentally. I can take it down. I have enough power, it would be easy. As it was, she didn't have enough points. But if she could show them what she could do, if she could let them see the power she had behind her, surely they would still let her in, right? They had to. She belonged here, she knew it. She raced past a student that had fallen to the ground in frozen shock, not paying him any heed. She slid to a stop at a decent range, finally bringing her arms back to prepare her first blow. A row of massive spires to the feet to stop it, then a blast of ice to the rest of it. A two-hit system that was bound to immobilize it, and get her noticed. Finally, she could just let it. No. The smoke had cleared. There was a girl there, trapped under some rubble that had fallen onto the street. Elsa stopped herself just in time, preventing herself from firing. Had she released it, the girl would have been caught in the ice blast, either frozen solid or trapped. Elsa couldn't fire. What do I do? If I try something, she'll get caught in it. What do I dash? Someone else thought faster than her. That boy she had run past suddenly leapt into the air with a strength that defied all expectations. Despite herself, Elsa was shocked, gaping at the display. True, her powers were strong, but that was. In a single blow, the boy took out the villain, sending it falling back into the street. No one could have expected it, and hardly anyone could believe it. But, more than that. Everyone's going to notice him. She cursed at herself, and her luck, realizing her chance was gone. There wasn't any way to show off, there wasn't another way to demonstrate her abilities, any chance she'd had of getting by without any points was gone. She was, just. Why was he falling like that? Even in her self-pity, she noticed something off about his position. It wasn't poised or controlled. He was free falling, and he was holding his shoulder. Had he broken his arm in the punch? But even so, why? He can't land. She realized in horror. He can jump, but he can't land. She put her hands out, trying to map out the rough area where he'd fall. I have to cushion his dash. Then she stopped, her entire body growing cold as realization hit her. The only thing that would cushion him was snow. But if she made it, people would catch on to who she was, and then. I can't believe she froze over the whole school. They had to bring in so many pro heroes because of her dash. Look at her, the ice princess. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know, she mentally chanted, brain going blank, but heart pounding as she tried to reel it in. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know dash. There was a slap suddenly, and she jumped, seeing that the girl that was trapped before had gotten free, and had slapped the boy as he fell. What dash? But then she understood, when he floated harmlessly just a few feet above the ground. The girl released her quirk, and they both fell to the ground, exhausted. Elsa was breathing hard, her hands trembling. She looked to the ground fearfully and froze when her fears were confirmed. A large patch of ice had bloomed from under her in her panic, and she noticed the air around her had gotten cold. In horror, she saw a single snowflake forming by her face. She dashed away, running down a side street to try to find a doorway to duck into. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know dash. Time's up. Present mic announced. From the judge's room, Aizawa Shoto narrowed his eyes, before shifting from his spot to head out. Elsa had been able to duck into a doorway. Though it wasn't a real city, the academy had at least given them basic features, meaning you could at least go inside the building. Elsa retreated inside, closing the door behind her before falling to the ground. She clasped her hands and focused on her breathing, trying to clear her mind and steady her heart. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. It took her a little while, but the lack of people around calmed her panic and let her finally relax. No one had gotten hurt. She was still in control. The icing wasn't that bad this time. A thick sheet of frost engulfed the room, and snowflakes floated harmlessly around her, but nothing had iced over solidly, and she was still able to push open the door. She called that a win. Once she was steady again, she re-emerged from her hiding spot, and headed back to the main street where the others had gathered. There was another face there, a short old woman speaking to the students. She seemed finished, however, as she turned to leave, and the students followed. Elsa was in no hurry to catch up, eyes on the road as she followed everyone back to the entrance gates. She was going to have to face everyone at home and admit the truth. All her training was for nothing. She'd been a fool to think she could possibly get enough practice in just a few months, while everyone else here had been allowed to train their whole lives. Even gifted with a powerful quirk like hers, it still wasn't enough to bridge that gap. So focused on the road, she hadn't noticed how far behind she was the other students, until she looked up to face the gate and realize how far everyone was. But that wasn't what surprised her, for between her and the gaggle of students was a very familiar figure. Eraserhead. She gaped at him in astonishment for a moment, too shocked at the sight of him to do much else. When she gathered her wits, she finally managed to get out. "What are you doing here?" "I came in case you lost control again," he informed plainly. "I would have needed to stop you before it became a hassle." She pressed her lips together, trying to mentally rebuff the sting. "I did, but I calmed myself down. I can rein it in once I'm alone." "But how did you know I was here?" "I work here." She blinked at him. "You work here? Why did you apply here?" She blinked again, not sure why his intense scare startled her. "Well, UA is the best hero school there is. If I want to be a good hero, then dash." "That's not what I'm asking," he said sharply, eyes narrowing down at her. "Why did you suddenly decide to be a hero?" Internally, she began to panic. They had to bring in so many pro-heroes because of her dash. What a villain dash. She clenched her hands in front of her, and took a quick breath. I wanted to be a hero when I was younger. It was my dream. But my father said I needed to run the company, so I studied. But when Endeavor said that to me, I thought dash. So you receive one compliment on your quirk and decide you have what it takes to be a hero? What? She breathed. No, that's not what I dash. You're a liability, he cut in. We can't predict what will set you off, or how much damage you'll cause when you do. Having you on the field will be a bigger hassle than a help. No. She argued, but it was more out of desperation than actual disagreement. I can control it, I've been practicing. She gestured quickly with her hands. You don't have to worry about that with me, it won't happen again, I dash. His eyes flashed red. The black locks rose like a stringy specter, the strips around his neck lifting menacingly like coiled snakes. One end of the strip snatched one of her wrists with one end and craned it up to eye level, though he never broke eye contact with her. You want to tell me that, when you can't even hold it steady in a conversation? Because there, right on her palms and fingers was a thin sheet of frost, sparkling and freezing the air around it. I. Her words were dying in her throat, panic and terror making her seize up. You're a ticking time bomb, he cut in sharply. Too much stress, or too much panic and we have an unexpected snowstorm on our hands. We can't keep looking after you and expect to keep the public safe. She could have argued against him. She could have said that she wore gloves for this reason and that she never expected anyone to look after her. She wanted to do this herself, and she was trying to learn to control this quirk so that would never happen again. But she forgot those arguments under his harsh gaze. She just wanted away from him, to forget what happened today and try again later. I know, she said instead. I know I'm dangerous, I just want do good. Then you should know being a hero isn't for you. He said, finally releasing her and blinking to stop the erasure. His hair, and the strips fell back into place, giving him a more neutral disposition. The students accepted will be put through the most grueling training of their lives. Our goal is to eventually release them into the most dangerous of situations with the tools they need to come out the other end. It's no place for someone who needs a quiet place to calm down. She flinched, hating the harsh truth of his words. Because she really did have to run off on her own to calm herself down and keep from going out of control. The presence of people always worried her, too afraid of accidentally freezing them. So she had to get away from them to assure herself and calm herself down. And now that she thought about it, that was impossible in a battlefield. He turned away, finally heading back. I assume you already had planned to apply to other hero schools if this didn't work out. I'm telling you not to. The other schools won't have the means to stop you peacefully if something goes wrong, he argued. I don't want to have to be brought in again just because you wanted to live out a childhood fantasy. She said nothing, eyes to the ground. It was true, she had created backup plans. After all, Udare wasn't the only hero school. She had simply applied here first since it was the #1 school. And from a young age, she had been taught to always strive for perfection. But now, it seemed like even the others weren't an option. I can't stop you from doing what you want. But for the public's benefit, I say you consider my warning. Things won't go so well for you once you're no longer a minor. It was like a punch to the gut. It was a reminder of everything she was trying to avoid and forget. But he was right, and she couldn't argue, knowing she only brought this upon herself. I wish I was never born with this quirk, she thought to herself, looking at her, for now, plain and uniced hands. My life would have been so much easier without it. But there was nothing she could do about it now. She could only trudge back to the school, bracing herself to get the day over with. She took the written exam, simply because she did not wish to go home early. She knew she would receive high marks, but that was hardly helpful to her now. It was the first time she actually zoned out over a test, Eraserhead's warnings replaying in her head over and over again. Her heart was heavy as she headed home. She was so sure she would get in, and now she'd have to admit her failure, and accept her father's deal. Back into academics she went. More studying, more business, more expectations. The greeting she got when she finally did get home just made her feel worse. There she is. Anna squealed when she walked through the door. She was bouncing on her feet, grinning in excitement. How'd it go, did you get in? Despite herself, she huffed out a laugh. They don't announce it right away, Anna. It'll take at least a week. Oh, I know that, but you must have blown away all the teachers, right? She swung her arm emphatically, declaring her confidence. That's my sister all right, a shoo-in for Udate's hero course. And here, her expression finally fell as the truth came out. Well, actually. As she explained what happened, and her conversation with Eraserhead, Anna's face fell, gasping with horror. What? No, that's not true. You can control it now. The only reason that happened was because you left the window open, you didn't know your ice was spreading. I know. Elsa argued, and she looked like she was about to cry. But hero work is outside. I'm always going to be out in the open, risking my quirk going out of control. I can't run into a room to calm myself down when I'm in the middle of fighting a villain. How can I hope to protect anyone when I panic at the first sign of danger? She had a point, and Anna hated to agree, but a hero's work was stressful and dangerous. It was part of why their father had discouraged her dreams in the first place, he simply loved her too much to think of his little girl getting hurt. Leave it to All Might, Elsa, he had said. He'll protect us. You'll be safe here, with us. And oh how the tables had turned. Now she was too scared to even be near them for too long, afraid of accidentally hurting them. But. Anna argued, trying desperately to think of anything to refute her claims, or just encourage her. It doesn't matter anymore, Anna. I tried, but it wasn't enough. I just... She squeezed her eyes shut, hugging herself as she felt her emotions tumbling. I just need to be alone for a while. She raced past her, sparkling ice and snowflakes trailing behind her as she headed for the back so she could get to the shed outside. It was the one cheap thing at their estate, their parents having bought it by emergency once everything happened. It was the only way she could let her emotions out and keep from hurting anyone else. Anna could only look after her, her heart breaking in two. Which was why she sought out Gerda, one of their staff members, as she was cleaning the kitchen. Gerda? She asked the plump woman. Look, when you see Elsa's letter from U.A, could you give it to me first? The older woman stared at her, slightly confused, but sympathetic. I don't think Miss Bratt would appreciate you going through her mail, Anna. I know, but she's just so upset about everything, she argued. If she doesn't get in, I want to lay it on her gently. The older woman sighed. She loved both girls dearly, and after everything that happened, she could understand the younger's longing to soften the blow for her sister. Very well. But if she's upset, I won't defend you. Yes. Thank you, Gerda. She squealed, hugging the woman eagerly. You're the best, she declared, darting back to her room to get back to her last-minute cramming. When they were little, Anna and Elsa had been really close. It was why Anna still loved her so dearly. Oh, no! Cried little Anna. She was no more than 3 or 4 in age, and she draped herself dramatically across their bench outside in the garden. The summers in Japan were hot and humid, making anyone who stepped outside practically miserable. It's so hot. Someone save me. Never fear. Declared little Elsa, only about 6 or 7 in age. She had her legs apart and her hands on her hips, a truly inspiring hero. I am here. She threw her arms up and shot out a pile of snow, dumping it unceremoniously on her sister. Anna broke through the pile with a giggle, throwing her arms up joyously. Hooray! I'm saved. Elsa giggled, forming a little snowball in her hand, and taking a delighted bite of it, relishing in the cold water in her mouth. When her quirk was first forming, all anyone could feel was the cold air around her. They assumed she had inherited a temperature-changing quirk, like her father. It wasn't until Anna noticed something they realized the difference. What is that? The tiny girl furrowed her little brow, face scrunched in confusion as she reached for it. It was a tiny white thing floating in the air. When she tried to grab it, it vanished in her palm, leaving a tiny wet spot. I don't know, Elsa admitted, finding another. But when she reached her palm out, the white speck, and the others that had formed around her swirled into her palm, gathering into a tiny sphere. Whoa, Anna breathed. You can control it like Mama. Snow. Their mother gasped as she saw it. You're creating snow. They would often play in it as they got older, whether it was making snowmen or having snowball fights, the girls would always find a way to have fun. Sometimes they would simply frolic in the snow, and other times they would pretend there was some kind of danger, sometimes asking their parents to play a villain. Sadly, their parents were often busy, so they'd ask a staff member to stand in instead. Since the worst Elsa did was throw snowballs at them, they didn't really mind. And once again, Elsa saves the day. Anna announced happily. She loved playing the damsel in distress, so didn't mind letting her sister play hero. Though she still dreamed someday of being rescued by a handsome hero and living happily ever after. But for now, she'd settle for her sister until she found a cute boy to do the job instead. You know what? Elsa decided. I'm gonna be hero. Like All Might, or Endeavor. I wanna be a hero. Anna decided too. They're all famous and everyone loves them. Sure, Elsa grinned good-naturedly, bending down to be eye level with her sister. Once you get your quirk I'll let you practice too. We can be heroes together. Yay! All right children, their father called from the door. Break time is over, it's time for Elsa to finish her homework. Both girls complained, but complied, returning to the house and back to work. At first their parents had thought it nothing more than kids' games, silly fantasies that all children had when little. Everyone liked pretending to be a hero when they were little, that was a fact. It wasn't until Elsa had started actually arguing with her father that they realized she was really considering it. "But Dad, I can't study, I have to practice my quirk. Look, watch this." She focused on her feet, and out bloomed a patch of ice to surround her. It was only a couple feet in length at the time, but certainly did not diminish the possibilities. Her mother gasped, hand to her mouth. "It's not just snow." "Seems like it," their father observed, kneeling down to hold his hand out over the icy patch. It began to steam, slowly melting away under the hot air he was exuding. "Seems like she can freeze things too." "See?" Elsa claimed excitedly. "I have to practice my quirk to see what I can do, then I can become a great hero someday." "Elsa," he said, putting his hand on her shoulder. "Being a hero is hard work. Plus it's dangerous, you could get hurt." "I won't get hurt," she said confidently. "I win all the time against Kai." "Elsa, playing games is different from a real fight. Real villains are mean, and dangerous, and they wouldn't hesitate to hurt you." He put his other hand on her other shoulder. "Besides, you're my oldest daughter. My company is going to be yours someday. I need to teach you how to run it, so you can be a successful leader." "But I don't want to run a company," she argued. "I want to be a hero." "I know you feel that way now," he conceded. "But you'll change your mind once you get older. Leave it to All Might, Elsa. He'll protect us. You'll be safe here, with us." She couldn't bring herself to argue, realizing she wasn't going to win this argument. "Yes, Papa." She conceded her defeat, following her father obediently, and going back to studying. After that, she didn't much feel like playing with Anna anymore. She spent most of her time practicing her music and studying, or, when she was on break, just sitting dejectedly on the bench, making a bit of snow for Anna when she asked. It only got worse as they got older, the homework getting harder and Elsa dedicating more and more of her time to getting everything right. Eventually, Anna had given up trying to play with her, focusing on her own homework and making other friends. They talked only during dinner time. And of course, that changed once Elsa hit middle school, being shipped off to VERYYYY Academy boarding school, only seeing her family on holidays. And all that had changed after the incident when Elsa decided to go into UA. They talked together, practiced together. Anna had helped and encouraged her as much as she could, relishing in their time together. And she noticed the change in her sister as she gained her passion back, joy coming back little by little. And now all that was gone again, evaporating as quickly as it had come. Anna's heart broke, realizing her sister was leaving her all over again, and she would go back to that silent, dejected girl she grew up with. Which was why, when Gerda brought her Elsa's letters, she bit her lip and tore them open. She was confused at first when there were two, thinking maybe there had been some kind of mistake. She opened the first and scanned it silently, face falling as her sister's fears seemed confirmed. Wanting to just be sure, she opened the second, face squinting in confusion. Did she not get in? Gerda asked. Yes, but... She read all the way through, making sure she understood. The business course. Elsa didn't even pause her studying when she heard the knock. Come in. Anna slipped in, hands behind her back. Don't be mad, but... She hesitantly brought out the paper. I read your letters. She finally looked at her, more confused than angry. Why? She fiddled with her hands, glancing away nervously. I just wanted to make you feel better if you were rejected. She held up the letter with both hands. You got into the business course. I figured I would, Elsa acknowledged, turning back to her desk. It doesn't matter now. But Anna approached her, her face worried yet inquisitive. But, why did you apply for business? I thought you wanted to be a hero. It was a backup plan. She said, and Anna could hear her voice losing its life. In case I didn't pass the entrance exams, I could try again later. They have a program to transfer students into the hero course if they do well in the sports festival. I figured I could do that, just in case. Anna gasped, jumping with excitement. That's it, then. You still have a chance. No, Anna, I'm giving it up. It's not practical anymore. Elsa argued. I'll go with father's plan for the academy. What? No. You can still get in. Anna practically shook in joy, hands balled up excitedly. We just didn't have enough time to prepare before. With a few more months, you can dash. No, Elsa cut in sharply, and sighed. That's not the problem. I'm still a danger to people. Even if I did get in, I'd still have the issue of not being able to fight. It's too much of a risk if I get upset dash. Okay wait, just hear me out, Anna argued, holding up her hands to halt her words. I've been thinking about it. You failed. Before because people were in the way, right? But that's on us. We were thinking too big. We kept thinking you'd basically be by yourself showing off your quirk, but it's not like that at all. We just have to think about people being there. Make your quirk smaller, more precise. That way you can still fight around people, and not put them in danger. Anna, aren't you listening? Elsa sighed, annoyed. I'm a danger to people. Even if I can learn to fight, I'll still dash. I don't believe that, Anna said sharply. You didn't know how strong you were before, but now you do. Your power isn't instant, Elsa, you still have time to control it. Once you see it growing, just reel it in. How can you be arguing this? Elsa asked, more flummoxed than anything. I put you in the hospital, Anna. You better than anyone should know how dangerous this is. You didn't mean to. Anna insisted. It was an accident. And I don't blame you, I blame father. He was the one who put all that pressure on you to get perfect grades and do all that studying, and stuff. You were having a mental breakdown, anyone would get that in your position. Elsa didn't know how she could do it, to be so optimistic and understanding of her despite the obvious danger she was. Maybe she was just oblivious. She had gotten off easy so she downplayed the danger. But Anna wasn't oblivious, in fact the incident had cost her. She lost several toes to frostbite and wore her slippers around the house so Elsa would never know. She forbid her parents and the servants from ever telling her the truth, knowing that it would absolutely gut her inside. Elsa, listen to me, Anna insisted, and reached out to grab her shoulders. You have the gifts to be a great hero. If you just practice dash. Anna, don't, I'll freeze you. Elsa knocked her hands away. I know, but I'll be fine. She said, pulling her arms back. See? She held her hands up. No ice. Only because I stopped you, Elsa thought wryly, but said nothing else. Your control has been getting better. Anna insisted. You only had a couple months to prepare after everything. If you have a few more months, then you won't have to worry about it going out of control, I'm sure of it. And I'm sure being in this school will help you even more. Endeavor was impressed, wasn't he? That's gotta count for something. She inhaled through her nose, throwing her head back and snapping her finger. Prove them wrong. Make those naysayers eat their words. That'll show, Elsa sighed, though couldn't help but smile fondly at her firecracker of a sister. You're amazing, you know that. I know, she smiled with a sassy little shrug. I'm pretty amazing. After my exam, I'll help you with practice. Elsa looked at her, then sighed with a resigned smile. I'm not going to win this, am I? Nope. I'll keep bugging you 24/7 until you agree. Alright, she finally conceded. I'll do it. Yes. Anna did a victory pump, this is so exciting. Thank you, she sighed again, but looked at the letter in her sister's hand. Well, I better tell mother and father. Wish me luck. Elsa knew Anna was eager to help her, and she definitely appreciated it. She just didn't realize how deep her sister was until about 3 weeks later, when she introduced a stranger to her. Elsa, meet Westergaard Hans, your new personal trainer. Personal trainer? Elsa wasn't opposed to getting some help for her goal, and given her lack of knowledge about exercise and fitness, she could fully admit to wanting a professional to guide her. But this boy looked like he was her age at least. He couldn't possibly be a professional. It's an honor to meet you, Miss Bratt, he greeted with a bow, giving a charming smile. And, Brad has explained to me your goals for UA, and I've already made a plan to help you reach them. Oh, that's great, she ground out, managing a strained smile, but quickly cleared her throat. So, Westergaard dash. Please, call me Hans. Hans, what exactly are your credentials? He laughed a little, easily catching on to her unspoken question. Even at 15, her statements were so careful and diplomatic. Actually, I've been homeschooled most of my life, and dedicated most of my education to learning about the human body. At first I was planning to go into the medical field, but then realized my talents were best suited elsewhere. May I? He extended a hand out to her, and behind him, Anna nodded excitedly to encourage her. Confused, but compliant, Elsa took a breath to steady herself, and extended a gloved hand to grasp it. I see. He mused, eyes critical as he scanned her body up and down. You've already sustained a lot of damage from the stress, I assume from cramming this past year. Your BMI is low, but your muscle mass isn't ideal for an athletic body type. He released her hands, straightening up. Before we get into strenuous exercise, I would recommend practicing meditation. I believe it would greatly improve your calm and focus, and relax your body from the stress. We'll need to build up your upper body strength and core muscles. You'll need to increase your intake in both protein and fats in order to sustain your workouts and, he lowered his voice with a bashful smile. If you don't mind my saying so, you also have a vitamin D deficiency. I would recommend supplements to counteract this. Elsa blinked at him, eyes wide in surprise. Oh. Isn't he great? Anna squealed. He can read anyone in an instant. He laughed a little. Only if I touch them. And I can't read thoughts, just physical and emotional health. And he knows what to do to fix it. Anna chirped, then played with her fingers as she looked at her sister hopefully. So, what do you think? Elsa was quiet a moment as she considered it, then looked to Hans critically. You said that Anna told you about my goals for UA. Did she tell you why? That's not my concern, he said easily, I'm here to help you with your goals, not examine the why. Also, Anna already made me sign a non-disclosure agreement. He admitted with a smile, but looked to her thoughtfully. Do you think there's something I should know? Else played with her fingers, indecision racking her for a moment before deciding to confess. I can't fully control my quirk. I've been getting better, but I'm not sure I'll be able to get it in time for the sports festival. I see, he sighed sympathetically, shrugging honestly. I have to admit, my expertise is in physical fitness, not quirk control. I can't guarantee results in that area. I know, I just wanted to know if you'd still be willing to work with me despite that. What is your quirk? Moment of truth, the sisters realized, sharing a look. Taking a breath, Elsa tugged off her glove, and held up her hand. After a moment, crystals of ice bloomed across her palm, creating tiny spires of glass. I can create ice. There was a moment where Hans showed clear surprise. He looked between her face and her hand, seeming to put two and two together, his expression going shocked. You're the one that froze over VERYYYY Academy, aren't you? She breathed sharply through her nose, and slipped her glove back on. I am. So I understand your hesitation. Thank you for your time, Gerda can show you out dash. Hold on dash, he said quickly, hand up. I didn't say I wouldn't help you. Both sisters looked at him, Anna with hope, Elsa with shock. You will? Yes, he said easily, but he was looking away almost in a daze, mental cogs already working overtime to comprehend this information. Although I may need a little longer to figure out how to work with this. You'll have to explain to me how your quirk works and where you're struggling. I'll have to make sure I don't make it harder for you to control. I understand, she said simply, though inside she was reeling. Knowing who she was, but still willing to help, it almost seemed too good to be true. What do you need to know first? He was amazingly adaptable when it came to different strategies in her workout routine. He gave her basic exercises she could do herself, so he wouldn't have to get too close to her. Right now you're too worried about your quirk, he pointed out. Just try to focus on your body and get yourself moving. We can fine-tune things as we progress. Focus. She changed her diet, asking their chef to take his recommendations into consideration. He didn't change the family meals of course, but her snacks and breakfast leaned more toward proteins and fats. Meditation may not be the best option for you after all, Hans admitted to her one day. Meditation is about letting go, but you have to consciously reel your quirk in. Tai Chi may be a better option, since it puts emphasis on focus and moving your body. Focus. Anna, she said one day. I need you to surprise me. Surprise you? She asked. How? Anyway, just randomly, she clarified. I have to keep myself under control no matter what. That means even if I'm scared, or startled. If I'm going to face villains, I have to steel myself for it. Oh, I get it. Anna agreed. Okay, I'll think of something. I'll do my best. When practicing her quirk, she tried to think up different scenarios and situations with which she could use her quirk, with Anna giving a few suggestions of her own. Ooh, what if you skated across the ice? Anna suggested excitedly. Like those hockey players. They're wicked fast. Elsa laughed, briefly imagining herself in a hockey player's get-up. Somehow, that didn't quite seem to suit her. I haven't gone skating in years. Guess I could give it a try. Yeah. That way you can slip up those villains, but just be sailing across the ice. Not a bad idea, Elsa conceded, and would certainly help her travel distances without wearing herself out, like last time. After a few weeks, Hans started recommending equipment, deeming it safe enough to be near her to better supervise her. I actually have some equipment, if you'd like me to bring it over, Hans offered. I imagine you're not comfortable enough for a public gym yet. No. I'll get my own, she decided, nodding to herself. If this is going to be my life now, then I need to start preparing. For what it's worth, he said, putting a hand to her shoulder. I think you're progressing very well. Thank you, she smiled at him. Your help has been most appreciated. But if you don't mind, she shrugged out of his shoulder. Please don't touch me without warning me. Yes, of course. My apologies, it's habit. Understood. There was one other issue with the festival Elsa and Anna hadn't realized until Hans pointed it out. It's going to be broadcast? Elsa gasped. Live? I totally forgot. Anna squealed in excitement. Elsa, you're gonna be on live TV. Anna, I've been on live TV. For the news. The second people see me on there, they're going to realize it's me. Oh right. Anna deflated slightly, wincing bashfully. This will come up sooner or later, Hans pointed out. If you're trying to be a hero, then eventually people will see your quirk and put two and two together. If this is too much for you, I suggest you back out now. Elsa was quiet, weighed down by his words. He was right, and she had been mentally preparing herself for that possibility. She just hadn't expected it to be so soon. They'll hate me, she realized quietly. Instead of respecting me as a hero, they'll be afraid of me. Maybe for the rest of my life. Normally, this would be where Anna would deny her doubts and encourage her. But she couldn't lie to her. She knew of the damage at school, and how that would look on a wide scale. There may still be a way, Hans said quietly. You're not the only person with an ice quirk. We can just deny it was you. But the students who were there will know. Elsa pointed out. I won't be able to hide it forever. He sighed briefly, conceding her point. It's not too late to stop, if that's what you really want. But, if you ask me, I think you should do it. Both sisters looked at him, thought Elsa was the only one who asked, why? You won't be able to stop people from fearing you, he confessed. Not everyone will believe in you. But after spending time with you, I seriously doubt anyone could hate you. That's right, Elsa, Anna piped up, eager to go along Hans' track. Once people get to know you, and realize what happened, they're bound to like you. You just need to tell them your side of the story. But that doesn't change my quirk control. No, but practice does. Anna pointed out. She's right, Hans agreed. I don't have any worries that you'll lose control of your quirk, especially not at the festival. Your focus has been getting better, and I think only extreme circumstances would set it off. I don't think you'll have another incident like Josiah. You think so? Elsa asked hesitantly. I know so. Anna said emphatically. Just think about it, Elsa. It's about time you showed people the real you anyway. Elsa breathed in sharply through her nose, hugging herself as her anxiety got the better of her. All right. I'll do it. Yes. Summer passed, and school started, sending Anna back to VOICEOVER Academy, and cutting down on practice time to force Elsa into the night. The business course still left her with a hefty homework load. Hans, ever so determined and helpful, accommodated her schedule, coming in for late-night training sessions. She got better and better, regaining her confidence, and her quirk control. She barely even had to think about holding it in anymore. And if she ever started doubting herself, Anna came in on the weekends to help and cheer her up. Elsa. Anna grimaced as she came up to her one day. I want to stop this whole scaring and surprising you thing, it's not really fun anymore. Oh. Elsa blinked. Well, if it's too much work, you don't have to dash. It's not that. You're just so on edge around me, Anna pointed out. We can barely even talk normally anymore. You're always suspecting me, and glaring at me. I swear I feel like you hate me sometimes. What? No, Anna, I don't hate you. She reassured her, completely blown away. I just brace myself so I'm not caught off guard. But that's the thing. I don't want to have you be on guard around me. We're sisters. We should be happy, and talking, and supporting each other. Not tiptoeing around each other like this. As she saw her hurt and her distress, Elsa remembered her guilt, and sighed, conceding. You're right, Anna, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you to do this, I just dash. Boo! She screamed as she grabbed her shoulders. She burst out laughing at Elsa's jump and scared face. Oh man, that was too easy, she sighed. You should have seen the look on your face. Elsa grunted, trying to look stern despite her smile, and failing. That was a low blow. I really thought I had hurt your feelings. Are you kidding? I've been dying to mess with you for years. Anna waved her off. But I totally got you, didn't I? You did, she conceded with a sigh. She raised her brows and looked at her primly, her expression whenever she was playfully jabbing someone. You should go into television. Ah! Anna squeaked. Could you imagine? Me, a star. She breathed out dreamily, before giggling and skipping off. Alrighty, back to homework. Elsa sighed, making a mental note to never, ever fall for her sister's crocodile tears again. And so, after a few months, the sports festival finally arrived. And the stadium was huge. There were cheers, there were fireworks, there were announcements, and if the students weren't feeling enough pressure already, the hullabaloo was enough to cement in how huge this event was. Izuku knew he had a lot of pressure on his shoulders. All Might was counting on him to make a statement, even with the trouble he had with One for All. Tense, but determined, he had his eyes on first place, knowing what was at stake. But there was another hopeful hero far, far behind him, trailing in with her classmates onto the field. Her gloves were off, and she was trying not to think of the crowd, or accidentally freezing over this entire massive stadium as she trailed onto the field. She had her hair up in her signature traditional updo, despite the hindrance. Hans pointed out the style was too tight and heavy, and was adding to her stress. But unfortunately some of her hair was too short for a ponytail or braid, leaving it in her face. She had to keep it out so she could see. She knew her mother liked seeing the traditional style on her daughter as well, and wanted to keep her happy. Hopefully, this would be enough to clear her mind and help her focus. Focus. Midnight called up a student from Class 1A to say the pledge and kick-start the festival. Elsa zeroed in on him, trying in vain to quell her beating heart. This was her goal. Her target class was right up ahead, preparing for the festival probably even more than her. She paid polite attention, even though her mind started racing with all the quirk strategies she and Anna had come up with. She had to be good enough, she had to be strong, she had to. I pledge that I'll be number one. Wow. Even that was enough to take Elsa's attention. Though everyone screamed and shouted in anger, she was too off-put to be angry. She was too stunned by his blunt answer, and wasn't really obsessed with getting first place anyway. After all, like Anna pointed out, she didn't need to win in order to get noticed. To transfer into the hero course, she just had to be among the top and prove she could keep up, that way they'd see her skill and potential. Admittedly, it did take some of the burden off her shoulders. Truthfully, Anna had told her that because she realized she was still spending so much time on homework. She had to point out that she didn't need a perfect score on every homework assignment, or every single quiz, saving her energy for her physical exercise and quirk practice. And the thought of beating the hero course was making her more anxious and doubting herself and her abilities. Well, whatever Class 1A's attitude, that wouldn't affect how she'd do this. She had trained too hard and too long to let a little something like that distract her. She wasn't exactly planning on getting in his way. Maybe if she could get second or third place instead. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. She took a breath and let it out slow. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. She was ready. As she watched the screen determine her fate, she couldn't help but feel anxious. After all, they had no idea what the events were. What if they threw another curve-ball Elsa hadn't prepared for? She shook her head briefly, bracing her nerves. It didn't matter. She could still do well. The words flashed on screen, and she couldn't help but be surprised. An obstacle course. For kilometers, last time she had been exhausted after less than one. Time to see if all their training had paid off. In the stands, Hans was seated near the back, eyes on the crowd of students and flicking to the big screen. He did have a backup plan in case things didn't go well, but he hoped, really hoped that she would be able to score well in all this. It would be the easiest path for him in the long run. He checked the time on his phone, and sent a message to Anna, since she had made him promise to do so. They're finally starting. They'll be doing an obstacle course race. He put his phone back in his pocket, focusing on the field. Hopefully Elsa would take Midnight's hint to heart, and use her quirk to help her along in this race. The students took their places near the archway. Elsa was placed near the back, since the business course had lined up further from the entrance. The rest of her classmates were already leaving the crowd, setting up their places and market simulations. Wait, brat, are you actually competing? One asked in confusion. Yes. She said, but didn't elaborate. She was nervous enough as it was, and didn't want to waste what little focus she had on explaining herself. He simply shrugged and took his place with the others, figuring she wouldn't make it past the first event anyway. Elsa knew she was at a disadvantage from the get-go, but she didn't let that bother her. There would still be time to catch up. Just focus on finishing, she told herself. That's all that matters. The lights turned on, and she took her position, ready to run. This time, no hesitation. She told herself, face set. Just keep your eyes on the finish line. One light down. You don't have to beat them, just catch up to them. She told herself, heart already hammering in excitement. Prove that you belong here. Second light down. Show them you have what it takes to be a hero. Start. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Aspiring Parasite on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.